What's going on, guys? Aaron from Top Tier Gaming here, and today I'm coming at you with an updated deck profile for Evil Twin Runick Spright post the brand new February ban list. And yeah, this is a deck that was actually extremely popular right up to Darkwing Blast's release, and it was very powerful in that format, and slowly it became more of a deck that used Capshell and Hyperia, and eventually the Evil Twins actually took, sort of a hit and went by the wayside. However, with Sprite Elf's recent ban, I personally feel like Evil Twin is definitely an engine that people may want to lean towards again, because it essentially does what Elf did. Like, the Evil Twins are able to recycle themselves with their own effects similar to Elf because they summon from grave. And then you get pops and draws, which always has worked extremely nice with the Runick engine. Yeah, I really think this is sort of a very strong way to return to Runick Spright. I feel like Runick Spright is definitely less good with Capshells and Hyperia as it used to be because Elf is no longer here. However, I think Evil Twin is a phenomenal replacement. So I just want to go over the deck profile, explain my ratios, my choices. And before we get into it, I do want to let you guys know, Discord link down below along with all of our other social media links. Also, I am trying to hit 14,000 subscribers, so if you do enjoy this video content and you like what you see here, feel free to like and subscribe. It really helps me out and what I do here on the channel. And yeah, without further ado, let's hop into this Evil Twin Runick Spright deck profile. Alright, so starting off, I have two Live Twin Leela and then one Live Twin Lila Frost. And this is sort of the ratio I'm going for with all of the twins. So if I bring these up a little bit, I am also playing two Kiss a Kill, excuse me, and one Frost. And Frost is historically the better one and one that people like to play more copies of usually, especially when you go back to pure Evil Twin before Spright came out. I'm personally liking this ratio. When I was playing a ratio with only 4 and I was testing that, but I found like in a lot of grind games and especially on like turn 3, there was times where I needed more for follow-up reasons. Also in this deck, besides follow-up reasons like I was mentioning, you actually want to open a twin a little bit more than you used to in the past. Because before, you could play the 4-card engine because the Spright engine by itself actually got you somewhere. Now the Spright engine is a little bit weaker, and the Evil Twin package is essentially what you're leaning on to be a little bit more of your main engine. Of course, Spright is still there, but oftentimes it feels like the Spright engine is actually just helping you get to this engine. And yeah, so I'm playing a little bit of an elevated Evil Twin count. Like, a lot of people played the 4 copies in the past, but I am deciding to play 6. To go along with those, I have 2 Live Twin Sunny Snitch. Now, this card is still one of the best cards in the Evil Twin package because it is just a Rhoda that also presents you a time win condition. The ability that every time your opponent summons a monster, normal or special, while you control an Evil Twin, you gain 200 life points and your opponent loses 200 life points has always been just like an obscenely good ability. But yeah, for the most part, you're playing this so you can add an Evil Twin to hand, or a Live Twin to hand. And yeah, I'm just playing 2. You don't want to see too many of it opening hand, and you don't want to have too much of this when you only have like 6 main deck Evil Twins, right? Or Live Twins, excuse me. So just 2 Sunny Snitch. And that is it for the Evil Twin package in the main deck. Now on to the Sprite package. There's a bunch of engines in this deck. So I'm sort of profiling it in a sense where you can see all the engines. Next is Spright. So we have 2 Spright Blue, which is a weird number, right? Because most of the time you'd want to play a lot more of this in previous Spright lists. However, I'm finding that, again, the Spright engine doesn't do as much as it used to without Elf. So oftentimes the Spright engine is just leading to my Evil Twin stuff, and you don't want to see too much Spright. I feel like my worst hands are the hands that are just Spright cards. And then we have 2 Jet here. I feel like they're both very important. I don't want to play like 3 and 1, even though I'd rather open with blue, in my opinion, most of the time. Because if you're running like 3 and 1, your follow-up plays with starter especially get very, very strange. So I feel like it's better to play 2 and 2 if you're going to play this lower sort of Spright ratio. And then I have 1 red and 1 carrot. This is one of the actual payoffs for the Spright engine now, are these interrupts. They help you play through hand traps, but also this is like part of Sprite's end board, is being able to have a monster negate and a spell and trap negate. These have always been pretty powerful cards, but one bad thing now without Elf is that once they're in the grave, it is just about impossible to bring them back. There is 1 card that does it. But once these are engraved, they're pretty much gone. So you don't want to throw them out like willy-nilly in a sense where if you can't protect them, I mean, you're going to have to throw them out anyways because you need some sort of board to like stop your opponent from playing, right? But once they're gone, they're gone for good, and that's pretty tough. But so you might want to protect these a little better than you did in the past because Elf just can't bring them back for free. Next, I have 3 Spright Starter, which is something I do want to maximize, even though I'm not playing a huge Spright count. I mean, this is just any Spright monster in your deck, and it comes at a special summon. and it can be, you know, in its name, a starter, and it's a very, very powerful card, one I wanted to maximize for sure. Being 2-locked is a little, it's not really weird in this deck, but it does lock you out of Trouble Sunny. You're mostly going to do that with Gigantic, though, anyway, so the 2-lock from starter isn't always a big deal. But yeah, one thing about starter in this deck that I like compared to, like, pure Sprite back then is you have this to sort of mitigate the damage you're taking. So if you draw that and starter, then oftentimes this isn't going to be, like, a reason you would lose in time. But yeah, we are maxing 3 starter. And then the sort of other Sprite Speller Trap I choose to play is the 1 Double Cross. I personally like Double Cross in this list more than Smashers, which is really weird. I know Smashers is a lot better going second, which is why I usually, and especially in the past, preferred to play Smashers. But Double Cross is really cool in this deck because it sort of acts as the Live Twin Trap, which I think was Live Twin... Which one was that? The one that revives. I'm forgetting its name, but... yeah, it was a way to bring back a twin if your sort of rotation got stopped, and Double Cross can do that as well. It can just be like a monster reborn to a linked zone you point to if your twin engine ends up getting broken. So I really like Double Cross for that. But also it's a much more powerful interrupt than Smashers, which is pretty relevant now so that Sprite is a bit weaker. Being able to take your opponent's monster is pretty powerful, so I am playing the 1 Double Cross in the main deck. Now for the Runick engine, which admittedly there's some like more testing to be done with this part of the engine. There's some stuff I've been testing with on Dueling Book and mixing up, and I'll sort of explain what those are. But yeah, I'm going to present the Runick ratio I'm profiling in this video, which I have 2 Runick Fountain, which this is something I'm sort of changing. I've tested with 1, I've tested with 2. The thing about 2 and why I think it's pretty important is because the way Kashtira plays, they can banish like a lot of your main deck, and if they happen to banish your 1 Fountain, then your entire Runick engine is just near unplayable. And also seeing this card in your opening hand, if you draw playable, is very powerful. One reason to play 1 of it is 1, to make space for other cards, and then 2, you really only need 1 as long as any Runick spell can get you to this. So if there wasn't opposing Runick decks and Kashtira in the format that could banish your 1 copy of Runick Fountain, I'd be like, okay, yeah, 1 makes a lot more sense, but I'm thinking about playing 2 simply for that reason. And yeah, I think you're sort of forced to play an elevated count of this, even though I would prefer to play 1, so yep. Then for Runick spells, I have the 3 Tip, which is pretty standard. Obviously, this card's insane. Just the best Runick spell because it's any other name, a free banish, and it shuffles your deck, which is pretty good. Like, all the Runick spells go to the bottom, so if you're able to activate Tip, you can then shuffle your deck and your Runick spells aren't all sitting at the bottom. That can become kind of relevant in later game states. Then we have 3 Freezing Curses, which is the Imperm, so we definitely want to max this one because it's very good. And all of these are like either go second cards or interruptions or extenders in this deck, which is why Runick is so good with Sprite and Evil Twin. 3 Flashing Fire, again, just one of the better Runick spells, so we want to max out on it. And then I'm playing 1 Destruction and 1 Slumber. So Slumber's really cool because I like having a searchable Runick spell that can just activate. As long as I control a monster, which can be really good for proccing Fountain at like higher numbers. And then also this card's pretty good at protecting your twins, so you get into a grind game and like your opponent tries to run over your twin, you can slumber it, it will live, and then on the next turn you can start doing all of your plays again. So I do like the 1 Slumber. I want to play an additional Destruction because I think Destruction is actually pretty okay as just like a really solid Runick card. So I've been trying to tinker with some ratios to actually play a second Destruction and still 1 Slumber, so I'm thinking about upping the count of Destruction. I will mention that I haven't decided exactly what I'm taking out because I want to keep the list at 40. But yeah, so if you find something you don't like in the list, feel free to add a second Runick Destruction. Next, for some generically good cards, I have 2 Triple Tactics Talent and 1 Called by the Grave. This is like the anti-hand trap package, right? Like, it's also, Tactics is just an insane go second card. That much is standard. It's been that way for a very long time. Yeah, I mean, this is also, Tactics is very good in Runick because it can draw you to more Runick spells, and it's always been good in Evil Twin because Evil Twins can get hit by just about every hand trap in the game. So any monster hand trap on any of your Twin engine or your Sprite engine, essentially Tactics will reward you in some way, and you can just keep extending past that. So, and then for hand traps, I am playing 3 Ash Blossom and Joy of Springs because this card is kind of coming back into the meta for multiple reasons. This deck isn't really hurt by Book of Eclipse, so it's not for that reason. However, I think it's just one of the better hand traps, and obviously we are playing Evil Twin, so we draw a lot, and we're playing Runick, so we draw a lot. So drawing Ash on your opponent's turn is very good, and that's why hand traps are pretty good in this deck overall. And Ash is more like, it's really hard to decide what the best hand traps this format are because we don't exactly know which decks are going to be played the most, but Branded is seeming to be very good, so I don't want to be caught against Branded without Ash Blossom for Branded Fusion. And that is why I'm deciding to run Ash, and the other hand trap I'm deciding to play is the triple Nibiru. Nibiru, just a very high impact card, very high impact hand trap. And Kashtira is, of course, seen to be the dominant deck this format. And as long as they haven't Iblied you, this card is insane versus them. It's almost always live unless they specifically try to play around it and they don't make that great of a board. So, yeah, 3 Nibiru in the main deck. And that is the 40-card main deck onto the extra deck. All right, so on to the extra deck, starting with the Runick monsters. I am just playing 2 Runick Hugin. This is the only one you need to play because it's level 2. I don't really find myself ever needing Gary, which is the level 4 wolf guy, in case your field spell goes to grave. I haven't really found a need to play him, and more importantly, your ratios in the extra deck are really weird this format because of Kashtira. They have the Mind Hacker and Unicorn that can tinker with your extra deck, and if you're playing ratios to fit a bunch of cards, you can lose very important pieces. So, because we're on Evil Twin Runick Spright, I have to fit a bunch of cards in this extra deck, and I don't have that many flex spots because I have to prepare for the Kashtira matchup. So just 2 Hugin for my Runick cards. Also important to note before going to the next card, like another reason not to play that many of this is you can't really use it defensively like you would in some Runick decks because you're always going to have something in the extra monster zone. So like this isn't saving you from Lightning Storm or anything like that. On to the Evil Twin cards, I have 3 Kiss a Kill. This is the main one, and oftentimes you will go into 2 on your first turn. So the reason I play 3 is that, like, if I only played 2 and I went 2 on my first turn, then my opponent could just banish the last Evil Twin in my extra deck, being one of the 2 Lila, and then I would have no more Evil Twin package if something happens to it, right? So again, this is more for just the fact that Kashtira can hit your extra deck, and then 2 Lila. Really, you only need either 2 and 1 or 2 and 2. I would personally play 2 and 2 if, like, the Kashtira wasn't running around banishing your entire extra deck. But yeah, 3 and 2 mostly for the Unicorn and Mind Hacker plays where they're ripping your extra deck from you. But yeah, this is like the main engine for the deck, and it's sort of replacing Sprite Elf post its ban, right? Because these bring each other back constantly and you get advantage off of it. And the whole engine, you know, for those who played Pure Evil Twin back in the day or know about it from this channel where I played a lot of it, yeah, these are essentially your Sprite Elf. So 5 of those. Then we have 1 Trouble Sunny. I feel like 1 is completely fair. If your opponent rips this with Unicorn, it's not a big deal because there's a lot of games you don't even go for this card. It's a really good turn 3 play or like a way to get more damage once you are finally able to have your battle phase. But honestly, like, since you don't need this that bad, it also looks like in your extra deck, it looks like a very important card, so your opponent might banish this instead of something else with a Unicorn or something, so that is something else Trouble Sunny can do for you, but it's a very important piece of the Evil Twin package, so I am playing at least 1 of it. Then we have Lingeribo, which is very good for all the Iblies running around, but you also have level 4 or lower Cyberse monsters in your deck, so this can come up for a multitude of reasons. There's ways to make this before going for your plays because of the Evil Twin package, so it's actually just a good card in this deck. And then we have 1 IP, which I guess I'll do this like this, just like generic links. 1 IP and 1 Unicorn. This comes up in Evil Twins all the time. 1, you're locked into Fiends, so this is like a really good way to like keep playing or out other threats even when you're Fiend locked because he is a Fiend. And then ending with IP is something really good to do with your Sprite package because it allows your Evil Twin package to go absolutely crazy on your opponent's turn and get like 3 draws on your opponent's turn with like 2 interrupts. It's very, very good to have this package in your extra deck. Then for the more Sprite stuff, we have 1 Sprite Sprint, which this card is very important. I wanted to not play it because you just need to fit so many things in the extra deck, but you absolutely need this because if you open just like Sprite or just like Runick and Spright, this being in your extra deck allows you to get to your Evil Twin stuff, which is, again, the main point of this deck is actually the Evil Twin stuff, because that's sort of the replacement for how Runick Spright used to play. So if you don't open any Evil Twins, but you have like 3 bodies, you can turn 2 into Sprint, dump a Lila from your deck, and then overlay with your other level 2 in the Sprint for Gigantic, special summon a Kiss a Kill from your deck, and then go into your Evil Twin plays. So Sprint is essentially mandatory in this deck, you have to play it. Then 2 Gigantic, which is one of the main cards. It's one of the reasons Spright is so good in Evil Twins, is it allows you to like have extenders that even if your twins get negated, you're able to special the other twin from deck and still go for your evil twin plays, which is very nice. And obviously Gigantic is just going to be played at multiple copies in this deck, because not only do you kind of need multiples, but again for Unicorn. And then one Onibimaru, because this is Runick Spright. Sometimes you need a way just to like get your opponent's threats off the board. This is something you can make with your Sprite monsters, more go second. And I'm not playing like a Zeus package in this deck because you are often locked out of battle phase, and I was playing it, but you again need so much in your extra deck and you have to play around the Kashtira cards. So I'm going to play Onibimaru as my more go second stuff, and I'm sort of foregoing Zeus. If you feel like you can fit Zeus somehow in this extra deck without getting your entire extra deck ripped by your opponent, I do recommend it because Zeus is amazing, but I'm just going to be playing this. And yeah, that does it for the updated Evil Twin Runick Spright deck profile. I say updated, but I don't think I've actually ever profiled this deck on the channel. I've definitely uploaded Evil Twin Spright and a lot of Evil Twin decks because I've played Evil Twin a very long time. Long-time watchers of the channel know I am like a huge Evil Twin fan. And yeah, it's just a deck I really love profiling, and of course at the start of the new format I wanted to show it off. I think it's pretty good, personally. I think like Evil Twin Spright is like a solid engine, and then with the Runick card it's very good because it just fits so naturally in the deck. Like, the big problem with Runick is that you lose your battle phase, so it's hard to clear your opponent's like outs, or really their board presence, and then you can out it with Lilla, which is super good, and there's some synergy there. And then of course Kiss a Kill can draw more Runick spells, which is, there's a synergy there. Like, there's actually just a lot of synergy. Also, something like not completely synergistic, but something I think is cool is that, like, you know, the twins are sort of like online personalities lore-wise, right? And they're, you know, you think of gamers when you think of like YouTubers and Twitch streamers, and then, you know, these are like first-person games. It's like the first-person dungeon crawlers, essentially. So there's some like lore synergy there. Just thought I'd bring that up because it's nifty. But yeah, this is going to be it for this Runick Evil Twin Spright deck profile. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, leave down below what you thought of the deck. How, if you're playing it, what changes would you make? What cards are you considering? And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed. This has been Aaron from Top Tier Gaming. Bye, YouTube.